What's up, guys? It's me again. I'm working on somebody's car today. I'm doing a transmission swap. I wasn't gonna make a DIY, but I decided to be pretty helpful. Not to mention I have an alternative way of doing it other than the popular video from Sergo Motive. Yeah, I think it's Sergio or Sergo Motive Automotive channel. So I'm gonna go over that and I'm going to go over the differences of how I do it. So let's take a look real quick. Alright guys, so what I'm doing now is I disconnected the 3 bolts here that hold this assembly here. I disconnected the reverse lights and the reverse lockout that hooks into this right here. That's the reverse lockout. This is a 0506, so the speed sensor on this one is right here, and it's in the front. If you have a 02 to 04, the speed sensor will be back here where you see a plug right there. So, alright, so I disconnected that. What I need to do is disconnect this slave cylinder. Let me see if I can move this out you guys' way. So those 2 bolts for the slave cylinder, they need to come off. And I already removed the front engine mount bolts. So there's the front engine mount because I'm going to be dropping the subframe. So I removed those bolts. I left that bolt in. You know, it's not going to really affect me. So it's going to come down with the subframe. All right. You don't have to touch anything else here, but I will be coming back when it's time to drop the transmission. And I actually disconnect these 3 right here. So those 2. And then this one, and then I just dropped the transmission. So I'll show you how I'm doing it. Alright, I'm gonna finish up a little bit and I'll be with you guys in just a second. Alright guys, so I just moved the slave cylinder right here out of the way. Also, I forgot to tell you guys, because this typically hasn't been bolted up on any car I've worked on, but if this line is bolted, it needs to be moved so these clutch lines can lift up. Or not these, this is the shifter line, sorry. This clutch line right here can be lifted up and it's not attached to the transmission. Basically, we want to deattach everything that can't go downwards. So this little shift selector, it can go downwards, so we're going to leave that attached. But these lines, they can't go downwards, so they need to come off. So also there's little clips that you have to just yank out, you know, straighten them and then yank it out. Same with this one. So, and I put the little spacers like right here to the side. So, all right guys, we got the car up in the air, of course. No wheels, took the wheels off. All right, so as I said before, I took off the let me see if I can get this. I took off the bolts. You got one that's hidden right here, and just in case you guys didn't know. And then there's 2 other ones to the front. So, right there. Oh, that's one of them right there, and the other one is right here. So, you take those 3 bolts to the front mount off. And I will go ahead and take this plate off. This is the flywheel plate. So take the flywheel plate. You got these 2 bolts right here. 1 and then 2 and then 3. And then after that, I'm gonna come over here and take off this rear mount. So you got 3 to the rear mount that we need to take off as well. So I mean, you can take this off so you can you know, drop it with the subframe, but I'm not going to drop this mount with the subframe. I'm just going to drop the subframe, and then when this transmission's out the car, I'm going to attach all this to the new transmission. So alright, so you got this one and these 2 right here. So those 2. Alright, so I got these bolts out for the mount. As you can see, they are out. So, I also forgot to mention this hanger right here. I'm going to take this off. As you can see, it's attached to the subframe. So, I'm going to do that right now. Alright guys, now I'm going to have to disconnect these sway bars. I can't think of the name. The sway bar ends, or the sway bar links, there you go. So basically to take these off is, on mine it's a 5. You're going to stick that into the hole. Alright, so that goes in there, and then you're going to find the correct size for that, and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so you guys see my setup here. I just make sure that this doesn't spin in the middle as I wrench on this thing, and there goes the end link. Alright guys, so sway bars are off the subframe. There you go. That's why you had to take those off, because they are connected to the subframe right here. And this bad boy's got to come down. So next up is the intermediate shaft right here. So this one's actually missing a bolt. Let's see if you guys can see this. So this is actually missing the bolt. There should be a bolt on this side, but it's not there. So I can stick my finger in the hole. But this one is here, and then there's one up top, another one. I don't know if you can see it, but you can kind of see it. It's really shiny, the gold piece. That's the top bolt. So there's 3 on this intermediate shaft that keeps it to the block right here, but I need to pull this intermediate shaft out. So those 2 bolts, well, if you still have all your bolts, there should be 3, but on this car it's missing one, so these 2 bolts gotta come out. So I'm gonna get started on that. Alright guys, I was just gonna show you something. So those little bolts on the intermediate shaft, they're in a tight spot. So this is how I reach it. I go over the subframe like this. So if you're not able to get to it, try this little maneuver right here. Save you some time trying to figure it out. Alright. Alright guys, so I got the intermediate shaft disconnected. So this is probably where I differ from Sergo Automotive. I'm going to disconnect these 2 right here, and then I'm going to pull the axle from the tranny, and then I'm going to walk over here and do the same for this side. These 2 come out, and then pull that axle out. That way I don't have to disconnect this, or, you know, deattach the ball joint or any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, just drop these, the knuckle and these rotors with the subframe itself. So that's the easiest way I found it. So let me get started. I'm gonna lower the subframe in just a second. I gotta get those 2 bolts out, like I said, and I pulled the axles out. Also, one thing I wanted to add before I disconnect these 2 bolts right here to pull the axles out of the transmission, we're gonna take this caliper off. Alright, make sure you take the caliper off. That way you don't have to disconnect the line. You know, you just hang the caliper up here or something like that on the coilover, or it actually, the line is long enough. If you disconnect it here, the line is actually long enough to allow it to sit on the ground if you needed to. So you find out what you want to do with the caliper, but yeah, you need to take this bad boy off and put it wherever you're gonna put it. So alright guys, I disconnected the 2 bolts and this brake line, and this ABS sensor that goes on the back right here. It goes in this hole right here. Put it right there. Just letting it sit with its bolt inside of it so I don't lose the bolt. Unless I need to move it somewhere else when I'm moving around up in here. Alright, I already sort of pulled the axle out a little bit. Should be able to pull out by hand strength. So, it's out. So, alright, I'm going to finish up and drop the subframe. Alright guys, as you can see, I took the 2 bolts out of the coilover, or the strut, whatever you want to call it, and I pulled this axle out. This is the intermediate shaft. And on our driver's side, I also pulled that axle out. As I said, they should be able to come out by hand. Alright. Now we can drop the subframe. So, to drop the subframe, we'll have to hit this bolt and this bolt and this one and that one. So 4 bolts total to drop the subframe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to support the subframe on this side and on the other side with a jack that I can control and lift. That way I can make sure the subframe doesn't just fall down. You know, this isn't my car, so I definitely want to be careful. Alright, let me get that started. Guys, so everything, axles are disconnected. Subframe is right in front of the car. One thing I forgot to tell you guys earlier, there's a ground right there. You're going to want to disconnect that before you drop the transmission, or it's going to yank on it while you're trying to drop it. So make sure you disconnect that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the transmission down. And I guess I'll film how I do it. So there you go guys. I have it's supported over there as well, because I'm about to disconnect the the driver's side mount where the transmission is. So I want to keep that supported, not too much stress on the passenger side mount. Alright guys, transmission is ready to be dropped. Depending on how you like to do this, you can either do the bolt that goes through the middle, or the 3 bolts that I pointed to earlier, that one, and then these 2 on the side. I like to do the 3 bolts. I guess it's kind of up to you how you feel like it'd be easiest for you. So either way, passenger mount is the only thing stopping me from taking the transmission down, so it's got to go. Alright. Okay. So, transmission's ready to be dropped. I'm just going to show you the bolts that need to go. So, you have this one right underneath the starter. You can get a good sight of that. Harness in the way. Okay. And then you only need the outside bolt on the starter that needs to come off. So you don't have to take both bolts out. So that one right there, that one, that's the starter bolt that needs to come out for the transmission to drop. You don't have to take the whole starter out. You don't have to take the other bolt out on the other side. Just that one. So we're going to leave the starter in there. And once again, that bolt. So that's typically under the car. Well, actually you'll have to do these from underneath the car too. So you have 2 bolts on this side. Let me show you guys. I might have to come in at a different angle. Let me go to the top. I'll show you those in a second. Alright, so you got this bolt right there, that needs to come out. That one down there does not need to come out, but that one does. And this harness is kind of falling down. Alright. So underneath the harness, there's another one. Can't kind of see it. But I'm trying to get a good angle on it. Here we go. Alright, so there. That one needs to come out too. So as you can see, it's right next to a reverse light sensor that sticks up. That bolt and that bolt. So there's two right next to each other. They're in line. So that's what you need to take the transmission off. And now let's go back underneath the car. So over here by the immediate shaft, you'll have these two. So you have this one right here, and then the one above it right here. Those two need to come out in order for the transmission to separate from the engine. So those two right there. Alright, let's take those two out and pull this bad boy out. Be sure to move that brake caliper out the way. Tell you guys, make sure you use the high heat grease. Just put it right there. Sorry, I'm doing bad at filming. Put it right there in that little knob, the little hole. Put the grease in there. And you also want to these two on this side, you want to grease up these edges right here that make contact with the throwout bearing. So make sure you do that, guys. And you can if you want to, it doesn't really matter right here, but that's where the slave is going to hit it. So grease up right here and grease up right here, make you not have any squeaky noises, and probably wear or last longer. All right.
Need me to pump that up?
Probably got to move the light and the camera to over here so I can actually kind of see where the shaft is. So you can try to move over here.
Yeah, want to go up top or?
Nah, got it right here. Just gotta have some kind of light so I can see. I gotta line this shaft up, and then I'm gonna push it forward. But I also gotta make sure that these bolts back here don't hook up onto the chassis. Get closer. Pump her up some more. This is where these harnesses want to get in the way. Come on, harness. Alright, let me get that harness real quick. That's the next thing to get in the way. The harness is really nice. Sure none of it's stuck in there. Alright, we should be good to go forward. I don't see anything in the way. No reverse lights, nothing. Alright. Always learn from my previous mistakes so I can do better next time. I think it can go up a little bit. I can let this down a little bit. Yep, starting to line up. It's almost there. take a small break. I think I can probably lead again. There we go. Alright guys, I got the transmission bolted up and time to bolt everything up now. Alright guys, I'm ending the video from the transmission DIY from yesterday. I didn't really show you guys footage of me putting it back on because all you really have to do is just redo the steps in reverse in order to put everything back the way it was. I know there's a popular video out there from Sergo Automotive, so I was just showing an alternative way of how you can do it if you're by yourself. You don't need help. That's why I showed the footage of me pulling the transmission out and putting the transmission back in, is to show that it can be done by one person. It doesn't require two people to do it. So if you're by yourself and you need to swap your transmission or do something with your clutch, you don't fret. You can do it by yourself, and I just showed you that it is possible to do by yourself. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video.